Hello and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today I'll be showing you how to cycle from Wembley in northwest London to Willesden Junction. This route takes about 20 minutes and you can do more or less the whole thing on quiet streets in low traffic neighbourhoods. If you do find this video useful, then make sure you subscribe to the channel where you'll find more routes just like it from across London. Right, let's get going. So we're starting right outside Wembley Station and we immediately head right down London Road. Now this heads into what Brent Council calls a healthy neighbourhood, and that's basically just their local name for a low traffic neighbourhood. So cycling on this street you can be confident that you're not going to run into too many cars, and actually most of the route is like that. Although as you'll see, some of the route is new low traffic neighbourhoods like this one here, and some of it is actually stuff that's been in for a very long time but with a similar concept. Now you can see the way that they've blocked the through traffic on this street on the left. Just coming up here, there are those planters, and they're put there to prevent cars from coming, but they allow you to pass through. Now we're reaching the end of the street, and there's actually some vans parked, kind of blocking where we want to go, so we're just going to go around them. And this takes us onto a cycle track behind the back of Wembley playing fields. Now this track is actually alright. It's separated from the sort of pedestrian track that it runs alongside by a little physical curb, so you're less likely to have people wandering into it, although it's not too well marked that this side is the cycle track. But honestly, it's not really a busy route, so it's not going to matter too much, I don't think. For anyone doing this route at night, by the way, you can see that there are actually street lights on there, so it should be relatively well lit, as long as they're working, which I haven't checked. Now, this path will take us out onto Tokyngton Avenue, which is another part of the same low traffic neighbourhood. And you can see this is a sort of street with, it has pretty high car ownership, pretty much every house has a car outside it, there are vans parked outside, but we're not really running into any traffic because it's been filtered out by the council. This is quite a long street, so when you combine it with London Road and that little path we went through, it actually makes quite a nice cycleway when you remove the traffic. And really there are residential streets all across London like this, which could be turned into really decent cycle routes without really spending any money at all. All you need to do is just buy a couple of wooden boxes and leave them in the road with a sign saying cars can't go through here. You can actually see coming up here, here's the filter that's basically making all this possible. And yeah, I mean that would have cost the council probably a few £1,000, and you know, that really opens up cycling as a really comfortable and safe transport option for huge numbers of people who normally wouldn't consider it. I mean, imagine cycling down this road and being stuck behind a car, or having a car stuck behind you. It's just not a pleasant experience. One of you is going to get quite angry, but as it is, it's basically alright. Now we're coming to the end of this street, and I actually take a slightly wrong turn here. You can actually go left of the brick wall rather than what I do, which is I come off my bike, go right and go up the steps, but there is actually a ramp there. And I go onto this protected contraflow cycle lane. It's light protection with just these wands that have been put in. There's no segregation in the opposite direction, and really, to be honest, that lane is just there to show motorists to expect cyclists coming in the opposite direction of the one-way street. Now, there's a slight change of pace here and a slight change of format, so we're actually going to go onto the pavement here. You can see these blue signs. They say it's a shared space, so you can cycle on the pavement. Now, what we're doing here is we're actually crossing the North Circular, which is a massive busy road. We're starting on one side of the road, and we actually want to get to exactly the opposite side of the road, so we want to cross left to right, and we also want to cross top to bottom. And we're using these shared pedestrian and bike crossings to get across. Then join this access road, and then turn right onto Durand Way, and that's really just a continuation of what we were doing. Thanks very much to that guy for stopping, that was very kind. Now, you're not within a specific low traffic neighbourhood here, but basically the layout of the streets means that it's not a useful through route for cars, so you're not going to meet any really. Then when you get to the end of this street here, there's actually a cycle path going across the green. Unfortunately it's sort of blocked off by parking, so you might need to squeeze through or even go around it. When you get to the end of this path, make sure you get off your bike because you're not actually allowed to cycle on the pavement here. But then you can just cross the road as normal, as you would as a pedestrian, and then cycle through these bollards here onto this road across the road called First Drive. And as you saw, you went through some bollards there, so there's not going to be any cars going anywhere on this street. It's really just going to be people pulling up at their houses, so that's almost like a little mini low traffic neighbourhood for us. Then at the end of the street you can see that there's another cycle path going across this park here, and this is Stonebridge Park. And yeah, you just want to follow the path round here. And yeah, this is shared with pedestrians again, so make sure you're courteous to anybody who you run into. Although when I was there weren't really that many people about. This is probably a convenient time to mention that if you find this video useful or you're just enjoying watching it, then make sure you subscribe to the channel, because you'll find on the channel a lot more routes like this about how to get across London safely. Now we're emerging here onto Milton Avenue. It's taken us straight into another one of Brent Council's healthy neighbourhoods. So again, you're not going to run into any through traffic on here, and we've got a nice wide cycleway. By the way, if you want a GPS map of this route, then I've included a link in the description. It's on a website called Komoot, and you can either use their app or you can download it as a GPS file and you can use it in your own one. Now, one interesting thing about this area is that the roads are all named after poets and authors. So Milton Avenue is a fairly obvious one, and we're about to turn left onto Shelley Avenue, which is another author of, I believe, Frankenstein. And then we turn right here onto Mordaunt Road, which could actually be a reference to several different writers. And you saw there we actually went through another set of planters, so that is the filter that's really keeping all these roads very quiet. Now, coming up in a second here, there's probably the worst bit of the whole route. At the end of Mordaunt Road here, I'd actually recommend getting off your bike and really just crossing this as a pedestrian. And remember, that's always something you can do if you're uncomfortable with a junction or a road or whatever when you're out and about on your bike. I know a lot of people worry about when they go cycling that they're going to end up somewhere where they don't want to be or where they don't feel comfortable, and actually keeping that in mind, that you can always just get off, is probably a massive confidence boost for a lot of people. So yeah, do keep that in mind. Now, earlier I was talking about how low traffic neighbourhoods can create a sort of ready-made cycle route, and this is actually a good example of somewhere where that doesn't apply. So this junction around Mordaunt Road, you really actually need segregation and a protected cycle lane to connect up the different bits of the low traffic neighbourhood to make a proper cycle route. So I'd really hope that the council would look at that junction again. But now we're coming on to Minet Avenue, and you can see that this filter we just went through here was of a completely different design to the old one. It had a sort of gate to allow emergency services through, and then a sort of section on the side for cycles. And the reason for that is that that filter was, even though it fills exactly the same function as the previous filters we've been through, it was actually put in, decades ago. So this low traffic neighbourhood stuff, it's not a new idea. This is that was something that was retrofitted onto the road, and it was done specifically for that reason, to make the street a lot quieter. I can guarantee that absolutely nobody asks for that filter to be removed. There is nobody saying, "Oh, please reintroduce through traffic onto our street." So that's worth keeping in mind when you see people complaining. And you can get another look at a similar design filter just there. Now we're actually coming up dead ahead there, that's Willesden Junction bus garage, and on the left is Willesden Junction Royal Mail sorting office or delivery office. So yeah, we're actually here now pretty much. That's the Junction Tavern just ahead of us. Willesden Junction, bit of a transport hub, so maybe you're getting the overground here and continuing on to somewhere else. We've come I think about 3 overground stops. And yeah, it was actually, I hope you agree, a pretty nice route. There was a couple of those junctions could have been improved across the North Circular, and also that one that we went through at the end of Mordaunt Road. But yeah, generally a pretty good one. So thanks very much for watching, guys. Make sure you hit subscribe if you found it useful, and yeah, do like the video because it does help other people find it in future. And yes, see you again next time. Thanks very much.